We are Cop Connect, a group of lifelong Reds with one vision: to connect Liverpool fans everywhere through a spirit of friendship and togetherness, to build the world's most diverse, most inclusive Liverpool fan group. Join our growing community on our Cop Connect Facebook group, on Twitter and Instagram, and our website copconnect.com. Cop Connect, the ultimate Liverpool fan experience, brought to you by Liverpool fans, for Liverpool fans. Copconnect.com.
Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm Daz. I've got Steve with me as always, and all the way from Liverpool and West Derby, right? If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
That is right.
Right outside of Melwood is the Northwest football reporter, Dominic King. How are you?
Very well. Lovely to see you all.
You too.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
So it must be weird now, Dominic, because you said you live 400 yards away from Melwood, and now they're doing the transition to Kirkby now. So
yeah, it's actually it's quite a poignant time, really. I don't live in West Derby anymore. I moved. My mum and dad are still there. I'm a few miles away up in Chilwell now. But I'm obviously down in the area all the time, and it's I just have just so many memories from my childhood about Melwood. I went to school in St Paul's, which is the school that basically backs onto the training ground, and every summer we would stand on the fence and see the players. The players would come over and talk to us, and they'd always have all the banter with the Everton fans, and it's just the people of West Derby are very, very proud of the fact that it's such a historical site, and it's very sad that they're moving away.
Yeah, it's got to be. Were you one of those kids that were looking over the wall?
Yeah, I used to. There used to be little cracks in the walls that we used to be able to peer through, so that was what I used to get up to.
Yeah, it's so different because we were just talking a few interviews ago about how Melwood, back in the day, the players would come out and sign the autographs. Now it's a bit different, they get in their cars and they go home. So, times have changed.
They have, yeah. And listen, I would never put sort of say you've got to stay in one place and not move on. I understand what they get now to Kirkby with more space, the improved facilities. Yeah, I mean the site itself is just so is small now for all the commercial activities that are going on and things like that. But I just think they could have done a bit more, to put it mildly, to keep that site as it was. It could have been a centre of excellence for kids. It could have been playing fields named after great figures in the club's history. At a time when green space in the city is not, we're not over blessed with it, and facilities for kids. I think something could have been done, but it's sadly all the decisions have been made now, and we are where we are.
Well, I mean, is the women's team going to be over at Kirkby? Or not, because I don't think they are.
No.
That's another one. Why wouldn't they let them? Let them at Melwood?
That's there's a Facebook group called Save Melwood, and I know an awful lot of members of it. And that was one of the things someone said to me about, why could they have not gone to the women's team and made a little facility for them, but. Again, it's one of those things that's completely out of my hands. It's lovely ideas, but sadly they never came off.
Yeah, well, he had George Scott on, and he's pretty down about Melwood, because it's going to be flat or a.
It's going to be how do we phrase it? Sort of not sheltered accommodation, but. Accommodation for older people. They are the tourist housing who've bought the plot. They're going to keep the the main pavilion, which has got the swimming pool and the canteen and everything, that's not being knocked down, thankfully, because it's a state-of-the-art facility, and thankfully, it will still be put to good use. But I think the idea is for it to be accommodation for people who are older in life rather than new builds.
Yeah, I'll let Steve jump in as well.
No, that's fine.
They're just chatting away.
That's okay, because it's been one of those things that we've had previous guests on before that we talked about the women's team, right? And obviously this season they got relegated and they're trying to come back up, but I mean, it doesn't make sense to us to put all this money into the new training facility, and then it seems like the women are just kind of standing by the wayside, and so we're trying to get the word out, slowly but surely, to all the media channels that they deserve better, right, for the team, and especially in the year when we win the Premier League and then the women's get relegated. That dichotomy there, it should be reconciled somehow.
No, I think you're right, and I think there are people at Liverpool now who have recognised that improvements need to be made with the women's team, and they are taking steps to improve and give them a better standing. And it's going to take time, but the points that you raise are very valid ones, and it's been mentioned before.
Yeah. So let's go back to, I know you grew up in the area, and so you really had no choice but red or blue, and you chose to be a red. So I read a little bit about your first Anfield experience, and so if you can share that with our listeners and viewers.
Yeah, so I was 6. First match I ever went to, I was 6. Liverpool won 6-0 against West Ham. Graham Souness, Ronnie Whelan, Kenny Dalglish and Ian Rush scored the goals between them. And that was in April 1984. And basically I went all the time when I was a kid. Fortunate on the days when it was a standing cop who could do my paper round, and whatever I earned, I used to go with my mates from school and stand on the cop. We had our own little position right in the middle, halfway up, that you could write on line with a penalty spot. And then season tickets all the way through until I moved into journalism.
So let us, we've had quite a few journalists on our podcast, and it's always interesting to us to learn how they made that transition to that becoming their profession. So was that always something that when you're growing up watching Liverpool, was that something you wanted to do?
Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky when I was a young lad. I knew my dad was friends with Ronnie Whelan's dad and family in Ireland. So when Ronnie came over, he was a big part of my life growing up. Ronnie, he still is. But so I was lucky to have like an unbelievable childhood in terms of experiences, in terms of meeting the players. I was never ever going to be good enough to play with them. So I thought the next best thing would be to report, and it was all I ever wanted to do. Working my way up through school, and when I was 20 and I was at university, I made a conscious decision with the degree that I was doing to get into newspapers. I needed experience, and I wrote to all the papers in the Northwest, and the only reply I got was from the Manchester Evening News. So I went up there for one visit, and I ended up staying for 7 years. Ended up covering Manchester City, Manchester United, bits of Manchester United, Bolton. It was a fabulous place to have an education. Brilliant newspaper at the time. It's obviously changed a lot since, but the people that I worked with were amazing, and the insights that I got, the opportunities that they gave me were unbelievable. One of the first big assignments they actually gave me was the FA Cup final in 2001 when Michael Owen, obviously it was what is the Michael Owen final. So I think that was the day really that I knew for definite that I'd made the right choice in life.
So tell us about your. So you went from there, and did you go straight to the Echo from there?
Yeah, so I did 7 years in Manchester, and then from there I got approached to come back and do the Everton correspondent job at the Echo, and I had 4 brilliant years. And people often ask me, how you, as a Liverpool fan, how did you cover Everton, and what was it like? And the truthful answer is, I was with the club basically every day for 4 years. I made friends then who are still classed as friends now. The people who I work with were brilliant. David Moyes, I couldn't speak more highly of for how he dealt with me. The players, they were just great to deal with. And I think it's also important to point out that yes, we're all fans. We've all got our team, but my job is to report objectively on whoever it is. It doesn't matter if I'm writing about Liverpool. It doesn't matter whether I'm a fan. If I'm writing about Everton, it doesn't matter that I support Liverpool. I'm there to do my job, and I had a great, brilliant time with Everton. Went all around the world with them, and then the opportunity came when Tony Barrett left. It was him and Chris Baskin before me, and just absolutely huge shoes to fill. Then the opportunity came to come in to cover Liverpool, and I went there, and so it's more or less October 2009, and it was in one of the most tempestuous seasons you could ever imagine. An amazing learning experience, just sort of with all the politics that was going on with the Tom Hicks and George Gillette. Rafa Benitez was in the final year of his contract, was in the final year of what proved to be the final year of his stay at the club, and it was just a time when you could never have your phone switched off. It was just an incredible part to be chronicling that history was amazing.
It's I was very fortunate to play golf with Ronnie Whelan when he came. We brought him here to Austin, so it was he's such a great person. So I'm sure you got some stick from him when you're having to write for Everton all those years.
I still get stick from Ronnie all the time, and I bet you he didn't play off his true handicap either.
Yeah, well, he'll remember me because we won on the last hole, and the only shot that they used of mine was the winning putt. So
brilliant.
Yeah. So going back to 2009, 2010, obviously, that's the transition from Hicks Gillette to FSG. So you're kind of right there seeing all that happen. And that's one of the, most intriguing times for me, reading about that. Brian Reed has a great book about that.
Yeah.
That time. And I would imagine that you had so much that you could take that story from different angles, I would imagine.
I don't, there's some of it I wouldn't even know where to begin. I think the story that really sticks in my mind about it all was January 2010, and Rafa was short of players, needed to bring people in. I think he just signed Maxi Rodriguez. He brought Maxi Rodriguez in on a 3-year deal, but he still needed more because the team was short and they were running out of money. Anyway, I wrote a column in the Saturday Echo. It was the blood red column, as it used to be, and I said something along the lines of, don't expect the owners to stump up. They won't do. They're not backing the manager. This is the lay of the land. Filed it as normal. It was one of those pieces that needed writing because the fans needed to know that they had the hopes up that they were going to be. There was strikers being linked, and I think it was around the time of Kenwyn Jones and people like that. If you remember, he was linked, and it was never going to happen really because they didn't have the money. So I'd done this column on the Saturday morning, and somebody then sent it to Tom Hicks Jr. and he sent them a very lewd, crude reply. Well, it would have been. I think he was in your time zone, so it would have been it was early hours of Saturday morning for him. It was normal Saturday time for us, around about 9 o'clock, and it was it just exploded from then. Basically, the owners were in the storm. The owners were insulting fans, and those 10 months were just remarkable. I mean, I wouldn't even try and say that I knew half of what was going on. It was just, you wondered how the club could even possibly function at times with some of the things that were going on. It was just, the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. There was briefing. It was just awful. It was just an awful time.
When FSG came in at the last minute, practically, right, to save the team, what was the feeling from you? Was it just, hey, this is another American consortium, right, that's coming in? They're erasing the debt, and they're going to keep us out of administration. But was there some cynicism involved as well? Like, okay, we're going from one devil to another, or
no. The dealings that I've had with John Henry, we were fortunate enough in the first 4 or 5 years of their reign to speak to him. He's now much more withdrawn from dealing with us, from speaking in public. But it was quite obvious early on that he's a very quiet man. He's someone that doesn't say a lot to you. He listens. And he wasn't making any promises. He was just, whenever he spoke to us in the early days, he was listening. He was trying to find out what had gone on, what had gone wrong. Spoke to everybody. His due diligence was, from everyone in FSG, the due diligence that he did was faultless. And it was quite clear that they were not going to be people that were promising the ends of the earth, like Tom Hicks was, like George Gillette was. So you could see early on that they meant business. Now, it would be absolutely wrong of me to sit here and say that everything they've done in the subsequent 10 years has been faultless, because that just hasn't been the case. They've made mistakes. They made a number of mistakes early on. But it was never, how do I say? I don't think they were trying to be popular early on. I think they were making decisions that they would have done, or populist, sorry, is probably the way. Like, you probably remember Hicks and Gillette taking the wads of euros and dollars out and saying, we're going to do this, this and this. That's just not FSG style. They're very understated and very, everything they did in Boston basically, speaks volumes for the work. And I think they were always just sort of, with me, they struck the right note.
Yeah, I mean, one of their first major decisions was to keep the team at Anfield and not relocate. And so I think that brought a lot of credibility with much of the supporters around, I would think. Yeah.
It's amazing, when you go to the stadium now and have a look around it, to see how it's been reconstructed, to see the atmosphere that it's managed to retain and the character that it's managed to retain. They've done an absolutely amazing job going on to Stanley Park and building from scratch. It would never have been the same, really. And if in the future they can do the Anfield Road end as they hope and make 62,000, that would be, they'll leave an incredible legacy, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they're doing a lot of things in the community that I don't think they get credit for, or they don't really, like you said, they're very understated. I was on a conference call this week as part of the supporters clubs, and John Henry and Linda were on it, and they were giving out the awards to the supporters clubs. And it was amazing because, I don't know how many major corporations that you'd be able to have a conversation with the CEO and about things that are happening at the club. And so those are kind of the things that you kind of see, and then they're so intertwined with the charities and the community building around Anfield. So I think we just struck pure gold with having this ownership group come in at the time that they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember we were in Boston. I think it was in Brendan's first season. Yeah, it was the summer of 2012 when Brendan Rodgers had just been appointed, and Tom Werner and John Henry were giving us an audience. We'd been with them for about an hour, and he was asking then. He said, "What do you think it'd be like if ever there comes a point where Liverpool win the league?" We were trying to explain. Just said, you will. It's basically impossible to put into words what it means for the people to have that trophy, and they've always been very, very mindful of that. And the fact that they've delivered it is, I think, it's the perfect legacy for whatever happens in the future. They were the owners that helped bring the title back.
Mm-hmm. If you can, Dominic, can you maybe share with our readers, our listeners, and our viewers just what you're doing today and the kind of writings that you've kind of transitioned to now?
So today, it's a very obviously with the pandemic, things have changed a great deal at the minute. So I'm on Zoom an awful lot now. Can't get to the stadium as much as I would like. So last night had to watch the game just on TV because there's obviously restrictions with the amount of people that can be in the stadium now. So I've filed a piece for tomorrow about just an analysis of the game, a verdict on yesterday's performance, which it wouldn't go down as one of the classics of Klopp's reign, but I think it showed once again what an unbelievably mentally resilient and hungry team they are, that they can keep going when things aren't working how they would like in so many ways, in terms of how they're playing, in terms of injuries, in terms of not having support in the ground, playing against stubborn opponents. And I think Liverpool are street fighters. I think, we can talk about the beauty of Salah. Firmino's out of form at the minute, but we can talk about those front three and how amazing they are. We can talk about the fullbacks, the goalkeeper, but I just don't think we can underplay how really tough that this Liverpool team is. I think this season is going to be a war of attrition, and the team that wins the title is going to be the one that deals with adversity, that deals with all the new emotions and experiences, and the injury lists and problems that's going to cause. I think in the last few weeks, Liverpool have shown that they're going to be the team to beat in my eyes. I believe they will win the league again. I think they're the best squad. They've got the best manager, and I don't think you can sort of underestimate how important wins such as yesterday and against Sheffield United are in terms of in what will be the grand scheme.
Yeah, it must be a pleasure to write about the squad and Klopp.
You know, there's one game that there's a couple of games that stick in my mind, and that I knew that they were going somewhere, and they were going somewhere very, very quick. 2 years ago, was it? They beat West Ham 4-1 on a Saturday afternoon, and then they followed up a couple of weeks later, and they beat Watford 5-0. And there was just a feeling in the stadium. I think it was in the Watford game when Salah scored 4. And I was looking at the team, I was thinking, these are the real deal. These are absolutely the real deal. Obviously, they hadn't signed. I don't think they'd signed Alisson at that point, had they?
No,
that season. No, they hadn't.
No.
I just remember looking and thinking, this team's going somewhere very quick, and you turn up at Anfield, and you could just sort of sense there was a crackle. This was a team to be really, really proud of. I remember it being that way in Brendan's second year when Suarez was at his peak, and you were turning up and you knew they were going to win. And that's what it's like now with Klopp. And I don't think people. It's hard when you're actually living in the moment to try and appreciate something. But my goodness, in 30, 40 years, they will be speaking about this team the way people now are talking about the teams from the 70s and the 80s and the 60s. They are absolutely fabulous. What they've done in winning those 4 trophies in 18 months. They're just the legends. I don't like using words like that too often, but they are. They've been the things that they've overcome, the way they've built the squad up with the smart, the business sense of selling Coutinho and buying Van Dijk and Alisson with the proceeds of it. They've been so smart in what they've done. It really is just an incredible moment in time for Liverpool fans.
Well, I think it shows how strong Liverpool are as well, because Man City lost Laporte last season, and company left. But it just seems like, we have 8, squad and first teamers out, injured, and we're still winning. We're kind of giving the league a big, FU again. Like you think we're going to fold. And they don't, and that's all credit to Klopp and the players and, the physios. Everyone that is associated with Liverpool Football Club, needs a big, massive pat on the back.
Well, that's just it. And I think that's an important point to make. I'm glad that you mentioned about the physios, because 10 years ago, it wasn't joined up like that. It simply wasn't. There was so many different factions working in different ways. It was never possible to sort of keep up with Manchester United or Chelsea or Arsenal as it was then. They were just not in a position to do it. But now, because Klopp is so sort of confident in his own ability and confidence in the people around them, he empowers them with the belief to do the job to the best of their ability, and they're all working together. And what you see, the results that you're seeing, is evidence of that.
Yeah, you notice that. Even with players that are linked to other clubs, they don't down tools. They're still professionals and they work hard. And I think that really comes down for the leadership from Klopp. He really instills that type of collective effort each day, whether it's in training or at the game. So it's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's like, look at Nat Phillips yesterday. He thought he was leaving a month ago.
Right.
He thought he expected to leave a month ago before the deadline. Never played in the Premier League. Comes in yesterday and I mean this with the absolute respect, plays like an old-fashioned centre-half. Yeah. Goes through, wins headers, makes himself big and imposing. Just comes in, slots in like he's been there all his life.
Yeah.
I mentioned. Yeah, sorry, Daz. Yeah, no, I was going to say I mentioned that yesterday to somebody that you had Nat Phillips and Shaqiri, who are both at the last day of the transfer window were going to leave, and it didn't happen. But a lot of managers, they would say, okay, we're just going to put you on the reserves because we're going to sell you in January. But Klopp just said, okay, you're back on the team. We're going to reintegrate you. And they put in a performance yesterday. And that's what I just love about the squad. They're so professional, and Klopp is very upfront with them on everything.
Yeah, he's honest. He's honest with people. There's no... There's never any an agenda. There's never he never plays games. He never talks about his players badly in the press. Nope. He doesn't like talking about his players to us. He doesn't never like sort of singling them out. But there's no politics involved. Everybody knows where they stand with him. If somebody hasn't played well, he'll tell them, and then it's how do we move on? There's nothing, no whispering. There's no hidden messages. And there are managers that do that. Let's be absolutely clear about that. There are in the Premier League still people who do that. Klopp isn't like that. It's just, how can you be the best? How can we, we need to keep this group strong, and you keep the group strong with honesty. And that's, again, Shaqiri, he's been linked. Well, he could have gone in January. There was a couple of clubs in January. Mm-hmm. And the fact he can still come in and have a cameo like that, and I wouldn't say that'll be the last one that he has this season. I would say there'll be more roles for him.
Dominic, were you surprised that Klopp didn't go in for a centre half?
No, because this is one of those questions that I think it's great with hindsight. Nobody could sort of envisage what happened, what has happened in terms of Van Dijk suffering an injury of that nature, or Fabinho, or they thought they were well stocked with Van Dijk, Gomez, Matip. Fabinho was the backup, and then the two young lads. They think the world of Reece Williams for how he was, for the way he developed last year at Kidderminster. They had a very clear plan in terms of what they wanted to do with that, with sending Reece Williams to Kidderminster to get a different kind of football and education, to rough him up a bit so he was ready to come back. They thought they'd be well stocked. I don't think they even envisaged for 1 minute that they would need to use Reece Williams in the Champions League. But it is what it is, and they have to get through it. It's just, you have to think back to the summer. What was the one thing that everybody wanted? Thiago. Mm-hmm. They delivered Thiago. I've never seen a clamour for a player to be signed. Probably Van Dijk's the only one really that I could compare. Everybody wanted Thiago. They delivered Thiago. Mm-hmm. And then they delivered Jota without anybody knowing. And how good has Jota been? So I think it's, everybody said they needed a left back cover. They did that with Tsimikas. Mm-hmm. So I think anybody who said he needed a centre half as well, probably being a little bit greedy.
Well, speaking of greedy, we hear Man City, they spend $500 million on defense, right, in the last 3 years, and they're still no better on defense than they were 3 years ago. And here's Klopp, utilizing Nat Phillips, Reece Williams, and Billy Camino, in the preseason, and I think he'll probably end up having some appearances by the end of the season. But it just shows you the different dynamics at play and the different coaching style that Klopp has versus almost everybody else, where he's giving the youth the chance and they prove themselves. And there's got to be something to be said about that, and also that these youth are playing against such a great first team day in and day out in training.
Yeah, well, at the end of last season, we asked them about the players, the rule about 5 appearances to get a Premier League medal, mm-hmm. and he said something that stuck with me when he answered the question. He was absolutely sort of livid that there was this stipulation. He said you couldn't sort of understand what we do every day in training, the level that we're at, and all these people who are helping us. So he was thinking of Andy Lonergan. He was thinking of Queeve Kelleher, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, all people like that are around Adam Lallana. I know, and I'm probably making a bit of a difference. I know he obviously did get his medal, but he wasn't. Adam knew he was leaving at that point. Adam knew from last October that he was leaving. Yet every day they're in there and they're playing against each other, and they're trying to do everything they can to help improve the team and improve the chances of winning. And it's the environment he's created that go back to explaining about. There's no. You can't be a Liverpool player now if you're going to sulk, or feel sorry for yourself, or think that you're not going to get an opportunity, because he won't. He absolutely will not tolerate that. That's just not his way. You've got to be there every single day to prove. Training for him is as important as a match day. You can't sort of emphasise like what goes on at Melwood. That's the big thing.
And I guess that kind of makes the Bobby Duncan saga so sad, right? If he'd have just bided his time and trusted the process, that he probably would still be at the club.
Bobby Duncan will. I don't know him, so it would be wrong, but I would think that he will one day look back and regret it for the rest of his life, because he would have, if he'd have been patient, he'd have played for Liverpool last year.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have played against Shrewsbury. He'd have played at Aston Villa. I remember watching him in pre-season in Southend. There was an open training session that we were able to watch, and he had it was an amazing learning experience for him with the how Andy Robertson, how James Milner was with him in terms of telling him at the level that he needed to be. But you could see from that he wasn't going to be good enough to be at Liverpool's Premier League level at that point. So for him to have an agent putting stuff in his mind that he was good enough was just ridiculous, and the agent was appalling, absolutely appalling. Did all his business through the press. It was just wrong on so many levels. And listen, good luck to him. I hope he forges a career for himself. I don't have any sort of axe to grind with Bobby Duncan whatsoever. Let me make that absolutely clear. He's a Liverpool lad, and we want to see our people thrive. But the person who advised him, I'm sorry, not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was really just wanted to touch base on just that Klopp does have a process, and I think that it's such a great example for the younger players to see Trent coming into the squad and now being the world's best right back, and Curtis Jones getting time to play, and Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. So it's such a great atmosphere, I would imagine, to train in. I want to ask you a question, because I know that you're close with Ronnie Whelan, but maybe share with our viewers and listeners maybe another legend that you've had the pleasure to interview, or one of your favorite interviews that you've had.
From Liverpool or from
whatever. This is your time, so you tell us.
Well, if we're going back to the team of the 80s, I know Jan Molby really well, and Jan and Ronnie are my heroes. I love Jan. I could listen to Jan talk about football from daybreak to nightfall. He's just a wonderful, wonderful man. Best interview that I've ever done was with Jamie Carragher when we went to Paolo Maldini at his house.
Nice. Nice. I remember that one.
For 10 years after Istanbul. I mean, what an incredible experience that was. I mean, they say don't meet your heroes. I'm so glad I met Paolo Maldini, because he was even better in person than I thought he would be. He was just, what a man, what an incredible life he's had, what an unbelievable player he was, and so humble with it as well. Just, again, legend. That was a proper pinch me moment. I don't normally get me picture taken with people, but I'll happily admit that I had my picture took with Paolo Maldini.
Yeah, if I remember that interview correctly, Carol was kind of a fanboy of Maldini as well during that.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was quite a long process how we got it set up. It was like 3 months in the making. And different phone calls, different people putting us in touch with people. And one morning, out of the blue, Cara got a message, and it was from Paolo Maldini. And Cara rang me up and he said, "You won't believe this. He's got in touch with us." I was like, I was walking through Lord Street in Liverpool city centre with my kids, and I was listening. He said, "What? He rang you?" Yeah, he wants to do it a week on Tuesday. What? So it was like, leave whatever we were doing home, book the flights, and we went over and back in the day from Heathrow. Drove down to Heathrow, got a flight out early in the morning. Cara had done Monday Night Football the previous evening. We flew to Milan. Maldini gave us his address. We turned up at his house. in the middle of Milan, no idea where we were. Next thing, as the taxi pulls up, the door opens, and there he is. And it was just like, oh my God. And he brought us into his house. First thing he said to us, can I get you a drink? I was like, yeah, just water. So he went and gets the water, comes and looks after us. He speaks to us for 10, 15 minutes. We do the interview for an hour. He then does some pictures in his backyard, and then gave us the recommendation for a restaurant to go to for something to eat. We had something to eat, went back to the airport, and we were home by 10 o'clock. It was just an absolutely unbelievable day. That, honestly, with all the that was the moment that all the when you sort of starting off and you're doing. I started doing netball and swimming and hockey and getting up and being sent to ridiculous jobs on sociable hours. That was what it was. Why it was all worth it. Well, it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Oh man! Well, I mean, the AC Milan team back then was absolutely brilliant. That's why I still can't believe that Champions League final. I'm just. It's sometimes you have to pinch yourself and then go back and re-watch it and then just go, damn, we did win. Don't know how, but we won.
Well, another little story about that. I was still working at the Manchester Evening News then, and but I think back then every paper in the country that had a team in could apply for a ticket. So the morning after the Chelsea game, we came into the office and they said, you may as well apply. You may as well apply for a ticket, So I was going to go anyway. I'd bought a ticket, but I ended up getting accredited. So I watched the. So if you can imagine, if you're watching on TV now, I watched it from that stand where the cameras were looking down on the pitch rather than behind the goal with my mates. Anyway, listen, you don't need me to explain what happened. What happened. So I did a bit. I was also doing a little bit of work for someone else while I was over there, and I never had a drink that night at all. I got back to the hotel at 4 o'clock once we'd been in the mix zone, done some interviews, filed all the copy. So it was 4 o'clock, and it was about 7:30. Phone rang, and it was the office in Manchester. And they said, we need you to do a comment piece. So I started laughing and I said, what? You don't need me. No, they said, we need a comment piece for first edition. It's like, on what? I said, you're in Manchester, there's going to be one to read about this. He said, you won't believe, my old boss, he said, you won't believe the reaction over here. It's on the front page of every national newspaper. You need to do something. So I said, all right. So I went back up to my room, the fella I was staying with. I said, you're not going to believe this. They want me to work. They want me to do a piece about Liverpool winning. So leave it with me. So I wrote the intro. As Sir Alex Ferguson said, after the second greatest Champions League comeback in history, and emphasised the second, football bloody hell. So as I'm dictating the copy over from Istanbul, there's no way they're going to use this. So I filed about 650 words, all what had gone through and whatever. Anyway, so the boss rings me up half an hour later and he says, I don't know how you've managed to do that. I said, what? You've put a local angle on Liverpool's win. Thanks very much. So I'm thinking, huh? Can't be. Next thing, one of the lads on the desk rings me up and said, congratulations, you should become the most hated man in Manchester. They put it on the front page. They put the comment piece on the front page with the headline Beyond Belief, and it was all about how Liverpool came back from glory, came back for glory. I would say it was one of the busiest mailboxes that the Manchester Evening News ever had that day.
Did you get a pay raise?
No, it's probably a good idea. It was probably for everyone's relief that I left 6 weeks later to come back to the Echo.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think you left. You went to the Echo soon, right after that.
Yeah.
Left him with a parting gift.
You can always blame the editor.
No, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned earlier about how this team 20 years from now will be compared to the Shankly teams. We've been very privileged here in the last few months to interview quite a few people that were part of that Shankly era and also are seeing this current team. And it's been great to learn more of the history that, I think people have forgotten over the 30 years. And now a whole new generation of fans are going back and learning the history of Shankly and those type of players. So it's been great. And I know Maldini is one of my favorite of all time too. So I imagine that I probably wouldn't even been able to say anything if I was in front of him.
Oh, listen. The point that you make about the history as well. I think I would never like to sort of say this team was better than that, because I think it's wrong to sort of make comparisons. What I say is this is the best I had seen since the 80s. Definitely, but they are going to be. Listen, John Barnes is an unbelievable judge, and John said to me at the end of last season, if they win it again, we're going to be talking about them being on a par with the team from 77 to 79. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the ultimate compliment from an absolute great. If he's saying it, then I think his words carry so much more credibility than mine. So I'm happy to be guided by John.
Oh yeah, we had him here in Austin last year, right around this time, and yeah, he was definitely mentioning the incredible status of this team and compared to some of the teams he played on, and obviously even earlier. So yeah, we have a lot of time for John Barnes over here. So
yeah, what a man he is.
Dominic, so where were you like when we actually won the league? Were you just sat at home watching the Chelsea, Man City?
Well, those 48 hours. Hang on, where are we? So it was a Thursday night, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So basically, from the Tuesday, we'd been working flat out on eventualities, because everything had to be. We were waiting for additions and to fall right for us, to be absolutely ready in case things happened, and we were plotting. Could it be this day? Could it be this day? So I shudder to think how many words I'd filed beforehand, but I was just at home with my boys. I've got 3 little boys, and we were all sat watching it. And then obviously when it happened, my wife took the boys out for a drive around the city, and I jumped in my car and had to go down to Anfield because I had to carry on filing for the night. And I was sat on one of the little benches by the main stand on my phone, trying to write a colour piece about the festivities and the celebrations that were going on outside the stadium. Finished about 2:30 in the morning. Got up again at 6:30. Got up again about 6:30. Worked all the way. Listen, you're lucky that I haven't had anything like that.
I've got 4 of them.
Very cool. And so yeah, worked from 6:30 till about 10:30 the following day, and it was just all a blur. But I always say about those days, they're the ones that they're the one that you're in it for, because you're reporting on history and chronicling history. So the hard work's never a problem.
Dominic, you kind of mentioned chronicling right now, and how difficult has it been with all the, with COVID and having to work from home? How does that change how your daily responsibilities as a journalist?
Well, it doesn't change your responsibilities, because you still you have a duty to find out news, keep people informed. It doesn't change how you go about your work. Because I mean, once I've got a phone or a laptop, or I don't really need an office as such.
Right.
The one thing that has been hard to accept, and I have to stress that there's people far more worse off than me, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm feeling sorry for myself, because I'm not. It's just difficult to adjust into a way of life when so much of our job is meeting people, having different experiences. It's like, going over to America every year for the pre-season tours, and the colour that you pick up, the people that you can speak to, the chance to strike up new relationships. That's all being put on hold at the minute. There's people at Liverpool that I haven't seen face to face since March, which is kind of remarkable. And I don't think you can sort of underestimate as well how mentally taxing it is for the players at the minute, because they are in a bios and the tightest of tight bubbles. They can't. They long before we were told we couldn't go to restaurants and things like that, they were told that, and they're living like absolute to the letter of the law, so they don't fall foul of anything. So it's an experience that none of us have ever been through, and the only way we'll get through it all is if we stick together.
Yeah. So were you in Boston last summer for Boss Night?
I was.
Yeah.
I didn't get to Boss Night, but I was at Boston. It was a very busy week that week. Which where did we go? Boston, South Bend, then back to New York, then on to Switzerland. Then it was the Community Shield. So I love pre-season and the opportunities that you get to travel, and that's really hit home this year that we've had none of that.
It certainly does, because obviously, we had plans to come to Liverpool last spring, Daz and I, and we weren't able to do that. Your perspective on just the support of the club on an international sense, once you get away from the Liverpool proper?
Well, right. I think it's for people who just sort of remain in Liverpool, and I'm absolutely unbelievably blessed and fortunate to have the opportunities that I've done. But I've been all around the world to see Liverpool, and the fervour and the enthusiasm that you get in America, that you get in Indonesia, that you get in Singapore, that you get in Australia, it's as intense as anything for people who live in the city. There's always an incredible welcome for Liverpool in America. Klopp loves it because there's always that respect where the players could, they know they're going to get. There's going to be a focus on them, but it's nothing like Southeast Asia where it's like Beatlemania at times, outside the hotels and whatever. But no, I mean, as I said, Boston's a brilliant example, because it's the depth of support there is, when you turn up at one of the games at Fenway Park, the colour just hits you straight away all around the streets and the bars and whatever. I don't think anybody can sort of dilute the passion that the people have around the world for Liverpool just because they don't come from the city. It's absolutely real. We're lucky now, aren't we? Obviously, with the internet and the access that we have to information, and the people is clued up about anything. So you can go to Adelaide, you can go to Arizona, and people know exactly what's happening in Liverpool, and as much as somebody from Egmouth.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the reasons why we love doing this podcast, bringing the stories from Liverpool, out to the world, and for especially now when no one can travel, or very few people can travel to Liverpool, and so it's always nice to get a perspective there locally. So, Yeah, we really thank you for coming on to the podcast today and sharing some of your stories with us.
Listen, it was my pleasure, and I was delighted that you asked me on. I hope I haven't rambled on too much. It's been a pleasure to be on, and if you have me on in the future, I'd be only too delighted.
Usually it's me and Steve that ramble on and on. Yeah, we can go for hours. Yeah, because that's our life. But yeah, I hope you come back on. We'd love to have you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the one thing is, just say before we finish, I mean, the world is different at the minute, isn't it? And I hope one day, in the not too distant future, there will be fans back in the stadium, and this team can get the recognition, the vocal recognition that it deserves. But what I would say is, I don't think this team's finished winning, not by a long way.
No chance. They'll win number 20 anyway.
We'll have a double parade next year.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, hoping. But really appreciate you coming on, Dominic, and talk soon.
No problem at all.
All right, cheers, mate.
Thank you.